Assalamu alaikum. Today's lesson is the impact of technology. At the end of the lesson, you must be able to know that what are some issues around the world about the access to water. And you should know at the end of the lesson that how air traffic is contributing to global climate change. Moving to the first topic, what are some issues to the access to water. You must know that first of all that we use water in three major sectors. One is agriculture, the other one is industry, and the third one is the domestic use. All three sectors we use plenty of water every day, but water is not unlimited on earth, although there are oceans. But first of all, you need to know that around 97.5% of the water on earth is salty. It's in the form of oceans. We cannot use it directly. Then the remaining 2.5% of the water is fresh. It means that all human beings, all plants and animals, they depend on this 2.5% of the water. But even this 2.5% of water, all of the water is not in the forms of lakes and rivers. Only 0.3% of it is in the forms of lake and river. The 30.8% of the fresh water is in underground. We need plenty of resources. We need plenty of technology to bring it on the surface to use it. And 68.9% of the water is in the form of ice caps and the glaciers, so we cannot use it directly, which means that we depend on 0.3% of the fresh water available on earth, which is very limited quantity. And human population is growing. Plants need plenty of water, animal needs plenty of water. So we need to take care and we need to consider all of the factors that contribute in affecting our access to the global water. You must know that around 40% of the people on earth, they are living without having sufficient amount of fresh water. They do have water, but it is not sufficient for them. 40% of the world population is not having enough fresh water. And even those who have fresh water, more than 20% of them, they do not have access to safe and clean drinking water. They have fresh water, but it is not clean. So which means that the situation is getting worse and worse every day when the population is growing. The map on page number 133 will tell you the story. For example, Britain, America, Canada, Russia, France, the countries in the north, Australia, there in these countries, the people around 91 to 100% people have access to the clean water or fresh water. But look at the other countries: China, India, Pakistan, Iran, Turkey, Iraq, Syria, Brazil, South Africa, Indonesia, Myanmar. These countries where around 76 to 90% of the people have access to clean water, which means that 24 to 30% people, are 10 to 24% people, they don't have access to clean water. Then comes some poor countries, for example, in Sudan, in Libya, in Kenya, in Mongolia, these countries where 50 to 75% people have access to the clean water, but 25 to 50% people, they don't have access to the clean water. Similarly, Ethiopia, Somalia, Mali, Chad, Madagascar, these countries, Afghanistan, for example, these countries, they're below 50% of the people have access to the water, which means more than 50% people in these countries, they do not have access to the clean water. So the things are getting worse and worse every passing day. We need to consider everything. We need to take care of the water resources, because compared to what we have today, the future is going to be more critical, because the population of the earth is increasing. In the future, the water situation is getting worse and worse. It is possible that what the people have access today, the number of people having access will be decreasing in the future. The maps on next page will tell you about the water stress. You must know that what is a water stress. Water stress is, for example, out of available resources of the water, when 20% of the water is consumed, it means that human society is facing water stress. For making it again, the explanation of water stress is that out of available water, when 20% of the water is consumed, it means that community is facing water stress. The two maps are very good explanation. Before going on to the maps, we need to know that what are the causes of the water stress, why the water is getting short of meeting our needs. The reasons are the leaky pipes, the pipes that bring the water to the cities, they are leaking and huge amount of the water is wasted. Population has already increased, more number of people are consuming from the same resources. Resources are not increased, but the consumers are increased. So it means that more number of people mean more number of consumers, and the availability of the resource is the same. So it means that the competition has increased. These are some of the causes of the water stress. The maps on page number 134 will give you the story. Now, the first map is about water stress in 1995. Look, many of the countries, they had plenty of water resources. They had no water stress in their countries. The examples are Canada, South American countries, African countries, Russia in the north, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Australia, Indonesia. This was the condition in 1995. Some countries, they had a very mild water stress. For example, China, America, because they were consuming less than 10% of their water. And some countries, for example, India, Mongolia, Morocco, Spain, Italy, Germany, they were having a small stress. They were consuming more than 20% of the water. And Middle East countries, they were having great water stress even in 1995 because they were consuming more than 40% of their water, available water. So by this way, they had plenty of water stress even in 1995. Moving on to the next map, you will see that in 2025, it is expected, it is based on the previous data we have with us, it is expected that many of the countries in 1995, those who had no water stress, they will have some water stress because of the growing population. Some countries, those that were in green color, in yellow color, they are now grouped in the brown color, which means that they are going to experience more than 40% of the water stress. Some countries that were in light blue color, they are now placed in the yellow color. For example, America in the previous map was in the blue color. Now it is in the yellow color, which means that they are expecting to have greater water stress as compared to 1995. You must focus on the important countries, for example, Middle East, India, China, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Russia, South America, North America. What was their conditions in 1995 and what is it is expected in 2025. Moving on to the next slide, this is the detail of the two maps. It tells you how the story differs in 1995 and it is expected to be in 2020-25. Just go through the slide, read all the details, and you will have a picture of how the water stress was in 1995 and how it is expected to be in 2025. So the summary is how the technology impacts our life, particularly the water. Human beings are main contributors in the spread of pollution on Earth and in the atmosphere around it. Industries are increasing on a rapid pace to meet the demands of the people for the goods they need. And these industries also contribute in spreading the pollution. How? Because the natural cycle of the rains is unable to recharge our sources of water, yani rivers. They are not recharged by the rains, which is ultimately causing the stress on the water sources, which is negatively affecting our life, and it's expected that in the future it's going to be worst because because the population will expand and ultimately the pollution will expand. So this is the summary how the technology